We're excited to have Denise Lee Yohn speak with us today, and I would say she's an expert in a world that we all have some appreciation for. You know, she just doesn't study brands, she really diagnoses them, and she understands to a degree what really sparks loyalty and what sparks yawns. And it really comes down to simple things like color of a logo. It really means what's the ethos of your brand, and that's very complicated, but she works with some of the biggest companies that you've all heard of. And I think her communication with these companies is, you know, it's not what you say about your brand, it's what you stand for and what you show up with. Because in today's world, you know, she'll tell you branding isn't just a marketing thing, it's an everyday thing. And it's more about your people and your culture and your purpose. It's simply, you know, how do people respond and how do people answer the phone? She's a best-selling author, an advisor to bold leaders, and someone who's not afraid to tell the company that their big idea really sucks. Her superpower is helping organizations build brands that really actually mean something and last. Please welcome the brilliant and bold voice behind some of the world's most unforgettable brands, Denise Lee Yohn. Thank you.
Honored to be here. Thank you very much. Wow, what an introduction. Have you ever had a customer experience that was so great? Like, it made you a fan of that brand for life. Think about it for a moment. What was it about that experience that made it so extraordinary? Maybe it was someone who kind of almost seemed to be able to read your mind and know exactly what you want and then give it to you. Or maybe it was something so unexpected, so different from the usual. Maybe it was something really small, but done with such intentionality that it stuck out and it stuck with you for years. Got an idea in mind? Well, I could talk about great customer experiences all day long because it's not just my work, it's my passion. I've spent 25 plus years working on some of the world's greatest brands and speaking to business leaders at organizations like these around the world. And I've also spent time researching and writing my 2 best-selling books, What Great Brands Do, and Fusion, How Integrating Brand and Culture Powers the World's Greatest Companies. And so I've had the privilege of helping many business leaders create great customer experiences that not just win market share, but actually win customers' hearts. And that's what I'm here to share with you today, how to win those hearts, how to win with customers. And that's our goal, right? We all want to win with customers. Whatever industry, your customers are key. Whether they're people buying your product, diners in your restaurant, patients in your clinic, students in your classroom, they are your customers, and you want to win their trust and their respect and their loyalty, right? And you might be playing a very different game than football now, but I think it's safe to say the mindset is the same. You want to win with integrity and consistency and impact. But here's the problem. Some of you might think that, well, to win, all you really need to do is just be nice. You know, be polite, be kind, make a good product, charge a fair price, right? And there might have been a time when that was enough, but not today. Today, nice is no longer enough because nice, first, is not differentiating. Everyone can be nice. That's really table stakes. Also, nice is quite subjective. For example, one person may love you for carrying their bags, another person might find that intrusive, another person really awkward. And nice doesn't scale. It works one-on-one, but it's really hard to maintain across time, across touch points, across channels. If being nice was all that it took to win, then everyone would be crushing it. But they're not. To win with customers and make them fans for life, you need to do more. You need to deliver an extraordinary experience every time. Let me break this down for us, okay? First, you need to deliver something extraordinary. Think about that word extraordinary. It's extraordinary. So winning isn't just about a polished version of the usual. It's about being unusual, unexpected, and unique. You know, sometimes I think that we get so caught up in competition that we're trying to be better than everyone else, but better is fleeting. There will always be someone who comes along and does it better than you. They're better, greater, bigger, faster, newer. Better is unsustainable, but unique is unstoppable. Here's what I mean. How many of you are familiar with the grocery store chain Kroger, or like Fry's, Dillon's, Ralph's? Okay, all right. What words would you use to describe the customer experience at Kroger? And let's be nice. So let's talk about Kroger on its best day. What is the customer experience at a Kroger? What are some words? Consistent? Easy? Standard? Okay. I've also heard people say, you know, they're big, they've got everything, you know, and their prices are good, right? Okay. How about Trader Joe's? How many of you are familiar with Trader Joe's? Oh, yeah, okay. And what words would you use to describe the customer experience at Trader Joe's? Again, on a good day. Fun, exciting?
Versatile.
What? Versatile, yes. Fascinating, I think. Whatever, yeah, kind of quirky, fun. Okay, which is extraordinary? Trader Joe's doesn't win by being better. It wins by being unique. You know, from its hand-painted signs, like to the fearless flyer and the open freezer cases where you can kind of reach in and grab something. They also train their employees differently. They're not just there to stock shelves, they're there to engage with you. And little known fact, you know, they will, if you're interested, offer you a sample. They'll like open up a product and give you a taste right on the spot. That's what makes Trader Joe's different, and it works. Trader Joe's has higher sales per square feet, greater traffic, and greater profitability as well. Those are the kinds of results you produce when you are extraordinary. Okay, so you want to deliver an extraordinary experience. And by experience, I mean it's not enough just to have a great product. And I learned this the hard way, actually, personally. This was back in the late 90s, and I was working for Sony. I was heading up brand and strategy. And up until that point, we were winning with customers because we had the best products. Great technology, and great innovation, high quality. But I think looking back on that time, probably a combination of both arrogance and a little laziness led us to be completely vulnerable. So we were unprepared when Apple introduced the iPod and the iTunes. And Apple was able to knock Sony off of its leadership position, even though Sony's products were just as, actually probably better than Apple's products. But Apple understood the power of experience. Apple offered an entire ecosystem of products, services, software, content. You know, it had sleek designs, beautiful retail stores. People don't just buy Apple products, they buy into the Apple experience, how Apple makes them feel. And that's because customers don't just buy what you make, they buy how you make them feel. So you need to deliver a real customer experience. And by customer experience, I mean all of the interactions, all of the touch points, everything a customer experiences when they come into contact with you. Everything a customer sees, hears, feels, touches, tastes, smells, from your restrooms to your showrooms, from your policies to your pricing, from what your employees wear to what they do when something goes wrong. And all those digital touch points are part of your experience, like your website and your social media. Customer experience is how you attract people and grow. Customer experience is how you differentiate from companies who are offering pretty much the same products and services, because there really isn't anything new these days. And customer experience is how you create a lasting impression that creates loyalty. Customer experience is like the new marketing. It is just as powerful in producing business results. So you want to deliver an extraordinary experience every time. Because winning with customers is not just about like kind of those highlight reel moments. You need to be consistent across time and across touch points. Take Starbucks, for example. You know, a few years ago, Starbucks, the brand, really kind of started to suffer because of a lack of consistency in the experience. You probably felt this. You know, sometimes you go in and you'd have this great experience. Other times it would be a complete letdown. Customers just didn't know what to expect. And so their trust dropped, and then the company stock soon followed. And here's the worst part. The whole organization suffered, even those teams and stores that were doing something really extraordinary. So they brought in a new CEO, and he is rightly focused on fixing the consistency in the customer experience, because excellence can't be hit or miss. So you want to deliver an extraordinary experience every time. Now, will you make mistakes? Absolutely. That's just, we're all humans, right? But the way you recover from those mistakes can be part of your extraordinary experience. In fact, if you recover well enough, that can actually create even deeper bonds with customers. I think we've all had experiences where a company has like made a mistake, but then they've gone out of their way to make it up to us, and that's really stood out, right? So to win with customers, you want to be unique, emotional, and consistent. That's what customers remember. But this kind of experience doesn't just happen. It requires intentionality, and I think this is what most leaders overlook. You gotta do the work. Delivering an extraordinary experience every time is a grind. It's kind of like training camp, you know, where you've got to like put in the reps, do the drills, do the hard work. There are no shortcuts, you know. You need consistency and focus, and you need to work the playbook. But I realize I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. Many of you have like gone through that grind, you've worked hard, and you know the results are worth it. Well, customer experience is no different. And so I want to get into that playbook for you and share with you 3 actions to enable you to deliver an extraordinary experience every time. So they are cultivate customer empathy, align team and customer experience, and execute in every interaction. These 3 plays will enable you to get to that goal of winning customers for life. So first, cultivate customer empathy across your team. Customer empathy is not soft stuff. It produces hard results, including competitive advantage. And by customer empathy, I mean the ability to understand your customers so well that you truly identify with them and you know what they need. And sometimes you know what they need before they even know themselves. You know, the hockey giant Wayne Gretzky says he skates to where the puck is going. And that's the mindset that you need for your customers. You need to be ahead of them, anticipating them, and that way you leave your competitors eating your dust. The problem with customer empathy, though, is that it's in short supply at most organizations. According to one study, only 38% of customers say the employees they interact with actually demonstrate they understand their needs. Only 38%. And that number is quite high if you consider that only 14% of employees say their work groups understand what their customers want. So you need to fix that. You need to cultivate customer empathy across your team. And not just with your frontline workers, but everyone, because every team member impacts customer experience in some way. Even those in back office functions like supply chain or billing, think about it. What damage could be done if an inventory manager doesn't know what a customer wants and where, when, and how they want it? Or if a billing manager doesn't understand a customer's cash flow cycle. You could lose a sale, you could lose a lot of money, you could actually lose a customer for life. So you need to cultivate customer empathy, and I'm going to give you 3 ways to do that. The first is always be asking, what do our customers want and need? They are the source of truth. And so open all your meetings by asking this question. And get your team members in the habit of asking and answering, what do our customers want and need? Second, bring your team together to map out and improve the entire customer journey. That way, people get a sense for, if they understand what a customer is experiencing before, during, and after their interaction, they get a sense for, well, gosh, we all need to work together to deliver this customer experience. And you're also able to identify opportunities and moments that most people, including your competitors, kind of overlook. How many of you are familiar with the TV show The Bear? Yeah, a few of you? Okay, all right. Yes, chef, right? So you probably recognize the guy on the right, Jeremy Allen. The guy on the left is Will Guidara. He ran the restaurant that was the inspiration behind the TV show, The Bear. And when he ran his restaurant, he would bring all of his employees together, from chefs to busboys, to do what he called interrogating the guest journey or guest experience. They would together analyze every moment of that customer experience and figure out how they could do something extraordinary. And that led to innovations like the cognac at the end of the meal. So instead of when the waiter brings the really expensive bill to the table, it's really kind of this awkward moment, right? They decided to have the waiters bring a very expensive bottle of cognac and leave it on the table along with the bill and invite their customers to relax and enjoy. And in doing so, they changed what was probably one of the worst moments of eating out, getting the bill, to one of the best. So that's what I mean by mapping the entire journey. So you want to always be asking what your customers want and need, and then bring your team together to work on the customer journey, and then make the customer real to your team. Ask your team members to share what they know about your customers. Often, they know more than you do, and so you want them to share stories about their favorite customers so you can really understand them. Invite your employees to listen in on customer interviews or sales calls, and consider how you can help your employees walk a mile in your customer's shoes. That's what USAA does. So USAA is a financial and insurance services provider for military families, and they are renowned for their extraordinary customer service. And they're able to do that in part because of some unique training that their employees get that helps them cultivate customer empathy and see the world through their customers' eyes. And that customer empathy is what has led to USAA winning awards for their service, as well as making breakthrough innovations. USAA was one of the first to offer mobile check deposit, and that innovation came straight out of their customer empathy work. So that's the power you unleash when you cultivate customer empathy throughout your organization. So that's your first action in your customer experience playbook, is to cultivate customer empathy across your team. The second play is to align your team experience with your customer experience. This is another way that will help you deliver an extraordinary experience every time. You want to align your team experience with your customer experience because your team, these employees are people. They are your internal customers. And just like people, just like your customers, they have needs and wants, and frankly, often they have other job possibilities. So you want to pay attention to the kind of experience that you're giving to your employees as well. But here's the important point. Employees can and will only deliver to customers experiences to customers that they experience themselves. Let me repeat that. Employees can and will only deliver experiences to customers that they experience themselves. And to be clear, I'm not just talking about, well, I should be nice to my employees so they'll be nice to my customers. Remember, nice is not enough. I'm talking about, for example, if you want your customer experience to be like tech-enabled, seamless, and intuitive, you're not going to get there with an employee experience that is slow, bureaucratic, and on paper. But when you design an employee experience that helps them understand what the kind of customer experience you want, then they feel that. They understand how important it is, and then they start intuitively making decisions that make that possible for customers. This is the philosophy behind the Ritz-Carlton brand. The company motto is, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. The leaders of Ritz-Carlton believe that they must treat their employees with dignity and respect if they expect their employees to treat their customers with dignity and respect. So they actually interrogate the entire employee journey and align that with the customer journey. So for example, in the recruiting process, Ritz-Carlton doesn't hire applicants, they actually cast people into roles. They actually use behavioral profiles to ensure that they've got the right job, the exact right job for the right person. And then also during the daily experiences of employees, they follow the $2,000 rule. The $2,000 rule means that every employee is authorized, regardless of their role, to spend up to $2,000 to serve a guest. They don't need to seek manager approval or fill out lengthy forms. They are empowered to use those funds to address a problem, address a complaint, create an extraordinary experience. One employee used some of the funds when they found a toy that a child had left behind and mailed it to them. Another employee used the funds to send a bottle of champagne to a couple after they realized that they were celebrating their anniversary. Now, I understand that many of you, don't have the size or resources of Ritz-Carlton, and frankly, you might not be building a business that really is going to offer luxury service. So I'm not suggesting you copy what Ritz-Carlton is doing. Although I do think that there is something to be learned about treating your employees with dignity and respect. But I share this example to show you the potential that you unlock when you create an extraordinary experience for your employees that's like what you want them to give to customers, and then empower them to do that for customers themselves. So that's the second play to deliver an extraordinary experience every time, is align team and customer experience. And the third action that will help you win customers for life is to execute in every interaction. In other words, sweat the small stuff. Again, winning is not just about performing at the big moments. Championship teams don't just play well in the red zone, they execute in every quarter, every down, every play, right? That's how they win, and customer experience is no different. Small things aren't small. Take, for example, Chick-fil-A. How many of you are fans of Chick-fil-A? Yeah, pretty much everyone. Like, I wish they had Chick-fil-A's here. They don't. It's kind of a bummer. But so Chick-fil-A, yes, they're a fast food chain, but they aim to provide an experience that is along the lines of what you'd expect at a finer establishment. So, for example, when you thank a Chick-fil-A employee, the response you will always get is my pleasure, right? Not you bet, no problem, not even you're welcome, but my pleasure. Because that's what they say at those fancy institutions, right? If you place a big carryout order at Chick-fil-A, an employee will help you bring it out to your car, and if it's raining, they'll hold an umbrella over you. And when Chick-fil-A employees clean the restrooms, they turn down the corners on the toilet paper. Why? Because that's what you'd expect at a finer establishment. It's a small detail, but Chick-fil-A understands that customers know if an employee is paying attention to the toilet paper, they're giving attention to detail in everything. So this is a brand touchpoint wheel. It's a tool that I use with my clients to help them identify all the different ways that someone from the outside world comes into contact with their brand, all of those touch points. And it also shows how all the internal groups and functions work together in order to deliver on those touch points. And this is just a template, but hopefully you can see that only a fraction of those touch points are advertising and marketing related. And that's because all the big things you say don't matter nearly as much as all the little things you do. Companies don't win through TikTok videos, influencer marketing, and funny ads. You win by delivering an extraordinary experience every time. So that's your winning customer experience playbook. Cultivate customer empathy across your team. Align your team and customer experience, and execute in every interaction. Now, as you consider these plays, it's probably becoming clear that customer experience requires a lot of work. It requires focus, discipline, relentlessness, grit. And you will always have to be getting better at customer experience because your customers' expectations are always getting higher. So in this way, customer experience is more like a journey. It's not a destination, but it's a journey worth taking because when you take it, that's how you get to your goal of winning with customers. When you get customer experience right, customer loyalty increases, profitability grows, and growth accelerates. So customer experience helps practically every organization of any type, size, or scope to win with customers. But what's more, it also enables you to win with your team. Because people want to be part of something important. They want to do meaningful work. They want to contribute to a winning team. So when you win with your customer experience, customer loyalty increases, teams feel proud, and you create something truly significant. So let me close by acknowledging that many of you have had incredible football careers, right? You have fought hard, you've won, and frankly, I imagine that some of you may be wondering, well, are my biggest wins behind me? Well, let me assure you, they're not. Customer experience may be a different game, but it can be just as fulfilling, if not more. Because when you engage your team with purpose and serve your customers with intentionality, you don't just build a great business. You actually shape culture. You change lives. You create a legacy. So remember your playbook. Again, cultivate customer empathy, align team and customer experience, execute in every interaction. That's how you win with customers. So the ball is in your hands, right? Your customers are waiting. Your team is ready. Are you going to go for it? Let's win this game together. Thank you very much. I'm getting the signal that we could have about 5 minutes to take a couple questions, and I do have some incentives for question askers. I brought some copies of my books, and so we'll just pass them. Diane has graciously offered to pass them out to the first few folks who ask questions. So, yeah, that always works. Oh.
I think it's on. Hi there. I'm Josh. I used to work in experiential marketing in a former career, and with a big client as well. I saw you've worked with Ford before. I used to work with General Motors. My question for you, although it's our goal to not have dissatisfied customers or complaints, I would like to know, kind of from your experience, the best way to handle when you do have complaints or dissatisfied customers, how you approach that.
Yeah. A few steps. One is to acknowledge that something went wrong. And I say that that sounds like a really basic first step, but you might not have thought that something went wrong. You might not have thought it was a really big deal, but you want to acknowledge that it was a big deal to your customer, right? So acknowledge that something went wrong. Second, apologize. A sincere, I'm sorry, goes a long way. I can't tell you how many times things have gone wrong for me, and people will be like, oh yeah, okay, well let me make it up to you, whatever, but I just want to hear them say, hey, I'm sorry, right? So apologize. And again, you might not think that you did anything wrong, but I think it takes some humility to apologize, even in those instances. And then third, I would, if appropriate, ask them, what can we do to make this up to you? Because again, different people will have different needs and expectations, and so you might be inclined to think, oh, well, I'll just do this and then I'll make it up to them. But you might want to ask them, what would really help here? How could I make this right with you? And then do your best to do it. So it's just those 3 steps. Acknowledge something went wrong, apologize, and then how can I make this up to you? How can I restore your trust? I'm really letting Diane kind of roam a little bit. So, okay, here's a gentleman in the back. Yeah.
Hello. My name is Bobby. I own a performance marketing agency, and one of the biggest challenges we have is incentivizing the team, right? A lot of times, and even some of the things you shared about ensuring that your customers are having or your team is having a great experience to then kind of give your customers a good experience. What are some ways you can incentivize your team for that?
Yeah. Okay, just like customers, one size doesn't fit all. Different team members will respond to different things. So again, I encourage you to maybe do a survey or kind of get a sense for what would be meaningful. But I have to say that the number one insight I have about that is that often we think, oh, well, if we just give money to our employees and they'll be happy, right? We need to pay them a lot, or we need to give them some sort of financial incentive. And yes, I think you do need to be competitive, and I think you do need to be fair. And for some people, yes, money is a motivator. But for the vast majority of employees, as long as you are fair, money is not really going to make a difference to them. You want to do something above and beyond that. And oftentimes, I think it is as simple as recognizing them. And again, for most employees, not everyone, but for most employees, if you actually take the time in front of everybody to call them out by name and say, hey, I noticed that you did this. So what did they do? And then what was the result? And because you did that, this customer bought more, or we signed a new contract, or we made a big impact for their client, whatever the case may be. By recognizing them in public and specifically, that just goes a really long way to motivate folks. So that would be my answer. Yeah, we have one more question. So Diane, do you want to pick someone?
Who has a mic?
Oh.
You can go pick someone. Okay.
Maybe this gentleman down here in front, because he's been so patient. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. My name is Michael Harris. I work in philanthropy. And so a big thing that we talk about that I think spoke to me was when you were talking about cultivate, align, and execute, big thing that we talk about is radical connections, especially with our donors or quote-unquote customers. And I was wondering, what are some of the best examples that you've seen or the best example of a company wanting to curate that radical connection with their customers that you've found to be really profound, that you think that we could take away from that in our various fields? Because I understand that we all come from different areas, and I was wondering if there was something that you found that you think could speak to all of us.
Wow, so many examples come to mind. I'm sure you have some great examples you have to share later. And I will talk about the nonprofit world, because I do quite a bit of work. I'm on a couple of nonprofit boards, and I actually run a nonprofit myself. I think in terms of radical connection, what the best nonprofits that I have supported, like, you know, given my money to, have helped me understand the impact that I'm making, like real, like upfront, face-to-face, like kind of person to person. So I support an organization that plants trees, right, in developing countries. They actually offered to, and I went and took a trip to that place and was able to look people in the eye who were impacted by the watersheds that we were developing. And that kind of visceral, tangible, intimate experience with the impact that you're making, I think I would qualify that as a radical connection. So that's what I would say, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, let me close with a short story from the world of music, right? Because there's something that's really curious about orchestras, right? For any given performance, dozens of world-class musicians come together, and they are all capable on their own of delivering a solo brilliant performance, but they choose to come together, and when they take their seats, they turn their attention not to the audience, but to the one person that's actually got their back to the crowd, the conductor, right? And the conductor doesn't play a single note, but they're the ones who hold it all together. They set the tempo. They know when to push hard and when to pull back. They know how to cue each person to deliver their best performance and to come together with everyone else to make beautiful music. And here's the thing that always stands out to me about conductors. Their job is not to be seen, but it's to make everyone else heard. And I see that as your opportunity with your team for your customers. Because you might not be on the front lines, you might be coding, you might be in the back room, you know, you might not be getting the glory per se, right? But it's your leadership that is holding everything together. The way you set the tempo, the way you unite your team, the way you elevate the performance of everyone around you. That's what enables you to win customers and make them fans for life. So again, I remind you, great customer experiences don't happen automatically. They happen when someone, perhaps you, chooses to lead with care, intention, and commitment. So I always say that greatness is a choice, so choose to be great. Thanks again.